Hello and welcome back to another Design Clips here at W+9. This is Dawn Woolslegel, and today we are going to be creating backgrounds for those large, bold sentiments. There's a lot on the market, and sometimes it's kind of like, what do I do with those? Well, I've shown you guys how to create smooth backgrounds and smooth blends with watercolor, so today I want to show you how to embrace those layers of color and those hard edges. So for mine, I'm going to be creating a heart to go behind that large Love You stamp. And I like to start this off by using a die. And you can use any shape die that you have on hand. You could do a circle, a star, a heart, whatever you want. I'm going to trace around the outside of this heart. And I'm going darker than I would normally. I just want this to show up on camera for you. But I'm going to be painting up to the very edge, not over the pencil, so I'll be able to erase this easily. Now I want this heart to be a little shorter, a little more squat and fat. So I am just going to modify this really quickly, and this is easy. I'm just bringing the point of the top of the heart in and the point of the bottom of the heart up, and then I'll just reconnect those lines to the outside. Once I've got that done, I'll just erase the lines that I don't need anymore, and then I'll have my new, shorter, puffier heart. And I didn't have to do this, however, the sentiment that I'm using is it's more square, it's as wide as it is tall. So I thought that this puffier, shorter heart would compositionally work better behind that sentiment. And now it's time to start our watercoloring, and for that I'm going to be using the Tim Holtz Distress Ink and a number 9 Ranger brush. This comes in their multi-pack, and I like to use a larger brush for this because if I use a smaller detail brush, I'm going to be tempted to try to achieve perfection, and that's not what we're going for here. For this one, we're going to embrace all of the imperfections. We're going to leave all of those hard edges, and we're even going to add watermarks afterwards. Now you could do this with any of your watercolor mediums, and you would get this layered gradation or this layered banding of progressively darker color. Because we're only going to be using one color this whole time, it's going to be monochromatic, but you'll see how each time we go over with a new layer of color, it creates a deeper band of that color, and it's really, really neat. So I've started by filling in the entire heart with my lightest wash of color, and for this technique I like to heat set it because it's going to trap those pools of water. And with this Distress Ink, you know it is reactive with water, so where the bigger pools of water dry, it's going to bleach those areas and make them lighter. So it doesn't allow it time to spread out and soften. This is going to immediately force it to bleach those spots in, and it creates the most amazing effect. So every time I put down a layer of color, I'm going to zap it with my heat gun and intensify that layer or that hard edge of color. So you can see here I'm just going to add in another layer, hit it with my heat tool, and again that's going to exaggerate those hard edges. And this technique is actually a whole lot of fun, and anybody can do this because you can see here I'm not being careful, I am just laying in layers of color. And it's kind of a no-fail because we're intentionally making it look messy. But this, I tell you, is an amazing technique, and looks great to do like large backgrounds. You can create bands of color, and it's just amazing. So now I'm just going to clean up any pencil lines that are showing. And since this is Distress Ink, it doesn't trap that pencil. So any area that I did accidentally go over the pencil, it erases pretty easily. All right, so now it is time to do the next step, which is add some of those water bleach spots. I'm going to use a smaller brush this time. This is a number 4, and I'm going to start with the bigger brush, and then I'm going to use the smaller brush. So that way I get different sizes of these water droplets. And again, it's going to add to that irregularity. I'm going to give it a couple of seconds to start doing its magic, and you can see here, you can already start to see those water droplets starting to appear, and then I'll just pick up the excess ink and water with a paper towel, and now I have the coolest texture inside this heart. And of course, nothing watercolor that I do would be complete without some splatters. So I'm going to pick up some of that color and then just kind of splatter it on. And yeah, my room is a mess, in case you guys wonder. There are paint splatters everywhere. I've just decided that it's part of the decor now. All right, so I'm just going to let this dry, and then it will be time to add in our sentiment. But while I let that dry, I decided to go ahead and make one in the evergreen bough as well because, hey, I've already got the stuff out. This is really easy to do, so why not make a couple? So I went ahead and repeated all the same steps to make this tealish colored one. Would this be teal? Minty? Minty colored one? I think it's mint. Looks like a dark mint to me. All right, so now that both of these are bone dry, and you want to make sure that they're bone dry because we're going to be stamping over them now, we are going to pull out our MISTI. And if you don't have a MISTI yet, I will tell you, you need one of these in your life. There aren't many things that I say you have to have, but I would say the MISTI is probably one of the best investments I ever made. And yes, I purchased this one myself, and I love it. Okay, especially since I do a lot of watercolor. So here I can perfectly line up exactly where I want this to go, and then I just close that MISTI door and pick it up. Now the other really great thing about using this tool is because we're stamping on watercolor paper, which has some texture to it. I am on the smooth side, but it still has some texture. So when I stamp it, if I don't get a perfect impression, or if the color just isn't as deep as I want it to be, I can just simply re-ink that stamp, close that door again, and I have got a perfect impression, and I don't have to start all over again from scratch because it got crooked, only did a half impression, or it just isn't dark enough. So now it's time to build up the rest of this sentiment, and this is from our Biggest Fan stamp set, and all of the products will be linked down below in the description box. Now this one says, I just love you, in a totally non-creepy way. So, and you have to say it like that. I just love you in a totally non-creepy way. You just have to. It just has to be said that way. So you can either leave this the way it is and then stamp the rest of the sentiment inside, or you can just go ahead and complete the rest on the front of the card here, and then you've got the whole inside of the card to write the rest of your message. And now it's time to customize this a little bit. There are some extra images also available in the set, so I'm going to add a couple of little ink splatters in black. Surprise, surprise. And then I'm going to use the little, it looks like a little brush mark. I'm going to use that to emphasize the totally, so they're not confused. It's totally non-creepy. Or, I don't know, you could use it to cross out the non, and it could be a totally creepy way. Whatever floats your boat. Maybe you are stalking them. Okay, so to finish these off, I die cut both of them using the largest frame in our gift card layers die, and that adds this great little faux stitching around the edge and cuts it to a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card panel, which is a standard A2 card base. And since these are such a clean and simple design, I wanted to keep them completely flat and post friendly, so I'm going to be adhering them to my card base using some Terrific tape. You can also use Be Creative tape. I just happen to have giant rolls of this on hand, so again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's my life motto. So I'm just going to put this all around the edges, remove the release paper, and then adhere it. I like to start at the fold, and this is a top folding card, and just line them up and press it down. And these are all done. Again, such a simple design, but a lot of interest thanks to that watercolor background that we added. Now I mentioned that you could do this for an entire background, so let me show you a couple of others that I did, and I really love the way these turned out as well. I used the exact same technique, and this time I just put it on in bands of color, so I covered 3/4 of the card front, and then each layer I came in progressively darker, making sure to heat set it in between. So there you have a couple of different ways to do an easy, almost no-fail watercolor background technique that is perfect for using with those bold sentiments or just for a simple sentiment strip. I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video. Don't forget you can find all of the products listed in the description box below, as well as at our blog at stampawaywithme.blogspot.com. You can purchase all of the featured W+9 products at w+9.com, as well as at many of your favorite retailers. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.